Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys exclusive 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at Obi-Wan Kenobi in his Mandalorian armor disguise from the Clone Wars. Now I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Star Wars figure review goes live on the channel. As with most Hot Toys releases nowadays, this guy isn't without a little bit of controversy. But it has nothing to do with the figure. It's all about Hot Toys stealing some artwork, and we'll get to that in just a second. Up front, we have an image of Obi-Wan wearing his Death Watch bucket, with a photoshopped lightsaber blade, because there's no blue glow on the armor, so this effect was not done in camera. We have a metallic foil Star Wars logo, the glossy wraparound Clone Wars color scheme banner, featuring another image of Obi-Wan on it, this time without his helmet on. On the side, we have another image of Obi-Wan on the glossy wraparound banner, which does contrast against the satin finish for the rest of the box. Around the back, warnings, legal information, as well as Hot Toys store locations. This is what I was alluding to about the stolen artwork. And I don't mean these two pictures, that's the actual Hot Toys release. But you see this up in the top left-hand corner? That isn't. This is a custom made by David Woon on Instagram. And I don't mean that they copied the idea for this release or the pose or something. They literally stole his pictures off Instagram, photoshopped out the white background, and slapped them on the box art. I'm not a fan of that, at least give the dude some credit. First in-hand impressions for Death Watch Obi-Wan? So far so good, he feels nice and sturdy. What we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box, and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first. They decided to go with their most basic Star Wars base mold. It's rectangular, relatively low profile, and there's some sculpted detail on the surface. This is just generic enough that it could literally be anywhere in the Star Wars universe. A Venator, a command post, or somewhere on Mandalore. They haven't even added the dry brushing around the edges of the panels this time. And they've cast it in this ugly brown color. Around the front, Star Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi on the etched nameplate, and it did come pre-scratched out of the box, so thank you for that, Hot Toys. And up top, an adjustable crotch grabber. I treat the jetpack more so as part of his look rather than an accessory. I like the way it's sculpted and painted, the detail is quite sharp all the way around, and it attaches with magnets. But you can't remove the central rocket, nor does it come with any blast effects. It is compatible with them, and Hot Toys have the molds for them ready. They simply decided not to bother. So the jetpack cannot be used to simulate Obi-Wan flying. It's just for show. Obi-Wan with blasters? So uncivilized. Even though we have received these weapons multiple times already with previous Mandalorian figures, I never get tired of seeing this sculpt, because these are some of my favorite Star Wars blaster pistol designs. The sculpt work on the surface is awesome, there's a metallic sheen to it, and we've got a wash over the top, plus some silver dry brushing. Once again, Obi-Wan's lightsaber hilt is probably the most detailed accessory here, both in terms of paint, with all of the shiny metallics, and sculpt work. There's detail on the top, the bottom, and on the activation switch. They do include two different CoverTech wheels, so you can switch them out. This time he doesn't have a clip on his belt though, so not entirely necessary to do that, just install the shorter one. The blades are compatible with both the LED and non-LED lightsaber hilts. The swooshing effect one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. This is still the one that looks like a fan, as though he's going back and forth like this. Normally, if you have a lightsaber blade trail, it's Just that, an actual trail. It's a straight blade, then there's a curved arc behind it, rather than it being even like this is. We will discuss the Deathwatch helmet in a lot more detail when we actually install it on the body. For now, just know that we get one, and it's not detailed on the inside at all. There's something so fundamentally wrong with Hot Toys' approach to LED lightsabers. From the base-slit hilt, to the cable that connects to the junction box, which can be stored on his belt, or on the crotch grabber if you switch out this clip. And they don't even give you a USB cable. So, if you have collected a bunch of Jedi figures, I'm sure that you're running out of USB cables. This is a pricey figure, and you need the cable to be able to use the power function. Hot Toys, if a figure needs cable, just give us one. And lastly, we get an array of hands, ranging from trigger finger hands, to a gripping / thumbs up hand, and an open palm hand for the left. I would have liked to have seen one of these for the right as well, and 2 closed fists already installed on him out of the box. What we're going to do now is get Obi-Wan himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Except for the jetpack and the blasters in his holsters, and I do have him with the Obi-Wan head sculpt on. Other than that, it's the figure as you saw it in the unboxing segment. This was a very clever move by Hot Toys. A niche look for Obi-Wan, but a lot of reuse. A reused body, reused head sculpt, reused armor, and probably reused patterns for most of the fabric parts of his outfit. This would have been very cheap for them to produce. They can make it limited, it'll sell out, then they can move on to the next thing. But the best part is, this is a look that a lot of collectors, including me, have been wanting for a while. So it's a win-win. It's not an iconic core look for Obi-Wan, it's just there if you want it. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Obi-Wan's head sculpt. We will try out the helmet look, and when we do, can you help me out? Let me know in the comments below, do you prefer him with the helmet on or the helmet off? I am leaning towards this option though, because the more I look at this Obi-Wan sculpt, the more I like it. It looks incredible to me. The skin texture is crazy good with that speckling on the surface, and there are some moles and freckles and some lumpiness and bumpiness to the skin. There's a feathered edge to the beard, making it look more realistic. And they've painted on what looks like individual strands of hair up the top, where the hairline meets the forehead. The hair itself has plenty of flow and texture to it, and they've hit it with a metallic paint, so light does bounce off the surface, making it look like Obi-Wan's hair is quite lush, for lack of a better word. The fringe hangs over the forehead too, so it casts a natural shadow on it. There is a skin tone neck, and the skin tone match between the sculpt and the neck is spot on. But by far my favorite thing about this head sculpt is it's got moving eyes. Which means you can alter the expression. He's got a subtle furrowed brow look, and you can use that to your advantage. Simply by having the eyes looking up ever so slightly, now he looks a lot more serious. Maybe someone is threatening Satine or something. I'm not sure where I'm going to have the eyes looking yet. I'm sure I'll figure it out, because angles are this sculpt's best friend. Front on, the likeness might not be perfect. From the side, it's darn close. The best part about this look is, this is not Obi-Wan anymore. This is just a generic Deathwatch Mandalorian. If you want to have this guy posed up next to Maul, I think that would look great, especially with the red color scheme. The helmet is a reused mold. We've seen it a million times with Boba Fett figures, and with Axe Woves, and with the Deathwatch Mandalorian from the Mandalorian show. You've got the port around the front, some speckling of dirt and grime on the surface, the Deathwatch markings in red, and there's that almost chalky effect to the paint they've used on the edges, which does give me that animated Clone Wars vibe. The visor is a separate piece of glossy plastic inset into the sculpt. Now you can remove this neck cover sock thing if you decide that you don't want it there, or it's simply too difficult to install, because it is not the easiest thing in the world to do. When the helmet is on, you get a little bit of skin tone at certain angles. For the most part, the neck isn't visible anyway, so if you can't pop this back on, don't worry about it. The jetpack is very heavily weathered. This thing is completely disheveled all the way around. And they've hit the edges with that grey paint, giving it that chalky effect that I was just talking about. Got some pops of bright silver and some red. Now it attaches to the backplate with magnets, but there's no foam padding on the inside, so do be careful not to move it around too much when it's on there, because the last thing you want is any paint transfer or damage to either the jetpack or the backplate. I don't know why they went so bulky with Obi-Wan. He's very, very swole. The chest is extremely padded, like to bursting point. You can see the curvature on that armor. The armor is attached with Velcro, so if you do want to adjust these pieces, you totally can. There's weathering, chipping, scratching on the surface of the armor, and the shoulder pads, and the gauntlets, and the crotch plate, and everything else. The flight suit is two-tone. It's grey and black. It's not weathered. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of weathering at least, just to tie the look together. I'm not asking for anything crazy, just a little bit of grey paint on the seams and on the edges of the pieces of fabric. I'm 99% sure this gauntlet is reuse. I think this one is a new sculpt though, unless you recognize it. If you do, can you just weigh in down in the comments below? The belt looks a lot like Jango Fett's belt, and it's made out of the same stuff as his, meaning it's pleather. I looked at the Hot Toys post and Sideshow's website, and they make no mention of genuine leather. It does feel thick, and it looks great for now. How long it lasts is the question. Fingers crossed, a while at least. It does have a brown cummerbund on underneath the belt, and both pieces are secured around the back with Velcro. The crotch plate, also Velcro, and it feels a bit fragile. It's quite thin for these side pieces, so do be careful when you're adjusting it for posing. These holsters are also new. The Mandalorian blasters aren't, but the holsters are. They're attached with, you guessed it, Velcro, and they're made of a soft rubbery plastic. There's a bunch of leather grain texture on the surface. The blasters sit in there fine. I wish they were a bit more grippy, because as you can see, when you slot them in, they go in deep enough that I don't think they're going to fall out, but they will move around when you're trying to make him look cool in a dynamic pose. The pants are just regular old grey unweathered fabric. There is a lot of padding for his thighs, and then none for the rest of the legs, so the top part is quite chunky. Then from his knee down, his legs are quite skinny. The knee pads attached with Velcro, and you can adjust them. Then the boot guards are made of pleather. They are free floating. You can move them around if you want to get rid of some of the wrinkling and take some of the pressure off the pleather pieces so that they don't crack as quickly. Do that with these armor plates, because the points digging into the pleather, that's a recipe for disaster. I believe these boots are reused from Jango Fett, which I'm totally fine with, because I've always loved this boot design. The soles are quite chonky, and underneath there's some fully sculpted tread. From the moment this figure was announced, I thought to myself, you know what? That's a great opportunity to upgrade your Episode 3 Obi-Wan with this head sculpt, while displaying this body wearing the helmet. The only issue is both sculpts use this stupid bespoke clip mechanism to attach the heads to the body. I'm not going to let that deter me. I still think it's possible. Not easy, granted, but possible. Step 1 is to replace the clip mechanism connector on the inside of the Mandalorian Death Watch helmet with a ball joint style socket that you can find on the inside of literally any Hot Toys Clone Trooper helmet. Unfortunately, the posts don't line up perfectly for the back screws. The front one does. I'm hoping that one screw is going to be enough to keep this in place. Well, I guess we're about to find out. I have removed the double ball peg with the clip mechanism on it from the Mandalorian body, And I've replaced it with a standard, shorter double ball peg neck connector. Oh yeah, totally, this works. This is how I'm going to display this figure in my collection. The Mandalorian helmet on, with the sock neck cover thing so you can't see the skin tone neck underneath the helmet itself. This is either going to work or it's going to look ridiculous. Let's give it a go. Oh, yes. This is exactly what I was hoping for when I got started with this process. This looks absolutely brilliant. I've now upgraded my Episode 3 Obi-Wan with a superior head sculpt that has moving eyes. The neck part that I used is from the Iron Man 2 Mark V figure. Take it off the Tony Stark head sculpt and you can use it here. I did also attach a little neck connector down the bottom just to give it a bit more height. This is the neck adapter in question. They're relatively cheap, and you can get them from 1/6 kit. Okay, let's do it. Let's talk about this base-lit USB-C LED light-up lightsaber. The hilt itself is well detailed, but it's a stupid design because instead of having the cable on the same side as the activation switch, knowing full well you can't rotate the hilt all the way around so the switch is on the inside of the hand, it's on the outside, so it's always going to be visible, unless you really stretch the fingers and then rotate the lightsaber hilt. Which is doable, I just don't want to do any damage to the gripping hand by rotating the hilt and stretching the fingers out. You need to thread this cable under the gauntlet and through the outfit, and then you can connect it to the junction box. As you can see, I didn't bother because I think this whole setup is ridiculous. The box can connect to the crotch grabber, which I would recommend over this, because as you can see, it's colliding with the jetpack, and I have it pushed all the way down on his pleather belt, and the belt is sitting lower than usual too. After you've connected up the saber to the junction box, then you can plug in the not included USB-C cable. I like to use a little power bank for these things. If you're wondering what kind of voltage or wattage to use for a power supply, I think the instructions tell you. So after all of that faffing around, you can flick the switch and it looks like this. It's okay. At least they are getting brighter. Some of their first attempts at a USB-powered lightsaber didn't turn out well. This does look better than them. Am I going to use it? Hell no. Enter the competition. This is an LED, also USB-powered lightsaber, USB-A this time, made by Fusion Reactors. I have popped some links to their stuff in the description below. While this is an Episode 4 hilt, I think, and it has a thicker neck, and it's less detailed than the Hot Toys hilt, it doesn't bother me because this is going to be in his hand. You're not going to see the hilt most of the time. But the blade you definitely will see. Dude, this thing is insanely bright. You can see the blue glow that it's casting on my hand. For figure photography, this is going to look very real. The cable that connects to the base of it is extremely thin, and there's no junction box. It goes straight from the saber into the power supply. Back to the Hot Toy saber, this time with the swooshing effect blade on and in low light, because people always ask for this. I don't know how useful this segment is because how many of y'all are displaying your figures in the dark? Let me know if you do that in the comments below. The straight edge blade does a decent enough job of carrying the light all the way through to the tip. Then compared to the Fusion Reactors blade, it's a night and day difference. The Fusion Reactors one, to me, looks much more like a real lightsaber compared to the Hot Toys attempt. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, I just realized that the Hot Toy saber also has a thick neck, so it's not even like we're missing out on that with the Fusion Reactors one. No junction box, no excess cabling, and a much brighter blade. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, Mandalorian Death Watch Disguise Obi-Wan from the Clone Wars. And on the right, also from the Clone Wars, General Kenobi. The proportions match, the bodies I reckon are identical underneath the armor, and they have the same head sculpts on. Could you foreseeably fit both of them in the display even though that would mean having two Obi-Wans? Yeah, probably, because you could just display Deathwatch Obi-Wan with his helmet on. See what I mean? Now, they could not look any more different. If you like the idea of a Death Watch Mandalorian because the color scheme is cool, but not so much another Clone Wars Obi-Wan because it's a duplicate character. The helmet potentially is your best option. Oh yes, Maul next to the Death Watch Mando. The red matches, the blacks look good together. These figures complement each other perfectly. As crazy as this sounds, now I'm considering picking up a second one of these Death Watch Obi-Wans, if that's even possible, because it's a limited release, and having David Woon customize the paint apps on the armor so it looks a little bit different to this one. Going over articulation, starting off with his head sculpt. It is on a double ball peg, but that sits inside a rubbery skin tone neck. So looking forward to there, looking up to there, that's actually further than I expected, swivel and pivot side to side. The shoulder pads are attached to the vest rather than the actual shoulders, so they won't get in our way at all. The arms will go up to there, going forward and back on ratchets. There's a butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, and then for the wrist peg, it's a ratcheted hinge and swivel. The torso is very heavily padded and it's covered in armor, so crunching forward just a little to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His legs, the thighs are padded, so going forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee going the full way, and a double ball peg for the ankles, good for forward and back, swivel, as well as ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, I like that they ditched the straps, so now they only rely on magnets to attach the jetpacks, but they didn't even bother to re-sculpt this piece of armor from Boba Fett, so the holes that the straps usually come out of are still there. The second annoying thing is this stupid little fabric sock you're supposed to use to hide the skin tone neck when you have him wearing his helmet. To slide the base of it that flares out in between the flight suit collar and the neck itself is a right pain in the ass. The third annoying thing is, for a character like Obi-Wan who comes with the lightsaber, you'd think he would come with a gripping hand. He doesn't. He comes with this thumbs up gripping hand and a trigger finger hand. So if you want him to hold the lightsaber properly without his thumb sticking out, you're shit out of luck. The first cool thing is, this doesn't even have to be Obi-Wan. If you're a fan of Death Watch and you want to have this guy just as a regular old Mandalorian next to Maul in your display, you can totally do that. Just pop the helmet on. The second cool thing is, there is a surprising amount of new sculpt work on display. We've got the new gauntlets, the new diaper section, and the new holsters. The third cool thing is, even though he doesn't come with a CoverTech wheel clip on his belt, they have still included, for the sake of accuracy, both the extended and collapsed versions. Plus, they've popped a little bit of silver paint on the front of them. Wrapping up on Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi in his Mandalorian Death Watch armor by Hot Toys. This figure is really good. Is he perfect? Honestly, maybe. I like almost everything about him, except for the pleather. Fingers crossed it lasts. I don't think it will. Pleather is pleather, and pleather flakes eventually. The proportions are solid. He might be a touch bulky though. The armor fits on the body well, it's beautifully painted, and you get access to Hot Toys' newest Obi-Wan sculpt that came with General Kenobi. And the best part is, you don't even have to use that sculpt on this body, you can use the included helmet. Then you can pop that on your Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan, and now you've upgraded that figure, so it's like a 2-in-1. If that is indeed what you want to do. If you want to have him displayed as Clone Wars Mandalorian Disguise Obi-Wan, he's still going to look sensational. Unfortunately, he is going to be a little bit hard to find, because he is limited. The reason why Hot Toys does this is because their number one fear is figures sitting around on store shelves and in stock on websites. So that's why they do limited. For niche figures and variations of characters like this, they make it an exclusive, and that way they are guaranteed to sell every single one of these. Frustrating, yes. There are still ways to get this guy though. I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.